Guys, it's me, Shaw360, and it's time to talk about episodes 5 and 6 of W because I just finished watching it probably about 2 hours ago, and it's so good, and I just have to talk about it because I love this show. I love how fast the plot is moving. I love how layered everything is. I love the fact that they do so many things in 2 episodes that would literally be the finale of any other show, and they make it work, and they do things back to back to back that shock you. And they managed to pull it off without it seeming like it's coming out of nowhere. But it kind of does seem like it's coming out of nowhere at the same time too. Or like you're like, oh, I can't believe you took it that far. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying this show. And there's a lot of philosophical undertones and overtones in this show. A lot of questions about the creation versus the creator. And it's just... wow, I'm really enjoying this show. So when we left off with episode 4, Kang Chul is in the real world. So episode 5, he's walking around the real world and he's seeing constant reminders of the fact that his world is basically a piece of media. He manages to make it into a bookstore. In the bookstore, he reads his entire life story from episode 1 to book number 33. And in it, I feel like he was looking for 2 things. Number 1, I think he was looking to see just how much of his life has been revealed through these comic books. And then number 2, I think he was looking for who killed his family. Like, because honestly, like, if there was a book about my life and I had some big mystery that I'd always wanted to have answered, if I knew my life was in this book, I'd expect that the answer to that mystery would be in this book. But, you know, it wasn't. But he read the whole thing, tore up all the covers in the bookstore. And at first I thought he didn't pay for it, but apparently he did because he took some money from the comic book, and apparently it's the same kind of money they use in regular Korea, and he was able to pay for all this stuff. But he goes to the hospital where Yoonju works, and he meets her at the hospital, claiming to be her fiance, and they have a discussion, and he basically tells her, you're right, you know, I should not have asked you to tell me the answer to why everything is the way it is, because you told me I wouldn't be happy, and you're right, I'm miserable, you know, this sucks, but thank you for trying to save my life, and because of that I want to give you one last goodbye. And he gives her a kiss, and it is a real kiss. It's one of them lip munching kisses, and nice. But he gives her a kiss, and she tells him, listen, this kiss was phenomenal. I'm not rich like you are, but I got a house and I got some money. I can take care of you. You wait here. When I get done with the surgery, baby, I'm going to be right back out here. Don't you go nowhere. And I thought that was a really cute reaction. I really did. So she goes into surgery with Professor Park. And of course, Professor Park is still mad about her character in the comic book. He's like, you know, are you going to ruin this surgery the way you ruined the comic book? Yada, yada, yada. So goes into the surgery, and while she's in surgery, Kang Chul's on the move, and he's gone to find her father's home. Apparently, he took a cell phone with him because he's able to get on the internet and find this home. Gets inside, and he's in the workroom, and he sees his entire world on the walls of this workroom. Every friend he's ever had, he sees them drawn. He sees composites of every vehicle he's ever driven, every home he's ever lived in, everything about his life. He sees kind of its creation, what it's based on, what the path was when they came up with the idea for these things. And he kind of goes a little bit nuts, starts destroying shit. And I totally get it because, you know, to see your life broken down into its pieces, nothing was original. Nothing was organic. Everything was plotted out. Everything was purposeful. Like, it's got to be weird. It's got to be weird to see kind of the nuts and bolts of your world. But later on, the father comes home. And when the father comes home, Kang Chul is waiting on him. Now, by this time, Yoonju has gotten out of surgery, even though her and Professor Park had gotten in an argument about whether or not the new character in W deserves to be with Kang Chul. And you know, Yoonju is defending herself, so she gets a little emotional about it. And in the end, like, why shouldn't he be with me? And like, listen, fangirl, do I need to get you with my teenage daughter because you are kind of being a sasaeng here? And she's like, no, I just need to leave. I just need to leave. She goes outside looking for Kang Chul. He's not there. First thing she thinks is, I wonder if he's looking for dad, because that would make sense. Like, if he comes to see me, the next person you would want to see is the person who created his world. Like, that's really smart, intuitive thinking. So she's texts her dad. Her dad's got his phone out, and next thing, she gets a call, and it's from Kang Chul. He's confronted the dad with this gun. He's there to get some answers. Puts the phone down. They get into a tussle because the dad reaches for a box cutter and is trying to attack Kang Chul. So they get into a physical scuffle. Kang Chul, of course, bests this old man. The old man, though, is kind of like, you know what? I shouldn't have been worried about it because you're not going to kill me because I made you. And you do what I tell you to do because I determined what kind of personality you have. And Kang Chul hits him with the, you know, your daughter wasn't the first person that I drug into my world. You were. I remember you very well. Apparently, when the father was missing at the very beginning of the series, it's because Kang Chul had pulled him into the comic as he was being drawn dead and begged him to save his life because he was out there bleeding. The father instead picks up the knife that the culprit left and tries to kill Kang Chul and stabs him. Actually, it was the lethal stab. And Kang Chul battles the knife away from the father and ends up stabbing the father. And that is how he knew that Yoonju wasn't going to get killed when he shot her, because he suspected that she was just like this old man, that she was going to be impervious to harm, which I'm so glad they cleared that up, because I was kind of torn up about that. I really was last time. Another thing that got cleared up for me later on as I was thinking about the last episode, and I was wondering how come time didn't pass fast for Yoonju in the comic book. It's because when she was in the apartment right after he left to go to New York, she said, I must be the lead heroine of this comic. And of course, if you're the lead heroine, that means that you have your own important storyline, so your time actually is going to take longer. Didn't think about that before. That makes total sense. But anyway, Kang Chul was like, you know, you saw me, flesh and blood, and you tried to kill me. You know, why would you do that? And he's like, because you ruined my life. And then the father shows kind of how his life has been affected, and it's been affected severely. You know, Korea is not the kind of country where people go and see mental health professionals regularly because they're upset or they're sad or they're, you know, dealing with grief. He went to a psychiatrist or psychologist and explained about, you know, I'm waking up and drawings are there that I didn't draw, you know, words are being said that I didn't say. I'll submit one thing and another whole thing comes out. And he talks to his friends, and his friends, of course, like, you're an alcoholic, so, you know, we're not listening to you, which he is an alcoholic. That's why they're not listening to him. Like, it's true. But yeah, like, he has gone to great lengths to try to understand what was going on. At one point, he was going to run away and just stop drawing this cartoon altogether. But then he changed his mind because he wanted to make sure that he had something for his daughter, because Kang Chul finds out through the help of the internet that, you know, the artist was a lousy father. They show a flashback of him, you know, cussing his wife out and talking about how miserable his life is. And, you know, they show him asking his daughter, who's like maybe 7 or 8, to buy him soju. Like, he's a miserable ass man. And Kang Chul tells him outright, you know, you want to kill me because you can't be me. Because when you drew me fine, and you drew me strong, and you drew me smart, and you drew me persistent, and I'm everything that you could never be. And that's why you hate me, because you can't be me. And the father's like, you know what? You're right. I did. I gave you so much that you began to overpower me. But at the end of the day, I am your creator. And if I can create you, I can destroy you. And so, I mean, it was a really interesting, the conversation was really good. If I couldn't recommend any other part of this drama, that whole part of Kang Chul and the artist talking to each other, all those scenes, I would recommend for somebody to listen to or to watch, because that in and of itself would be enough to sell you on the series. But long story short, Kang Chul asks the main question we all have had: who killed my family? If you don't want to answer anything else, if you want to kill me, fine, but tell me who killed my family. Because this is what my entire series has been about. The father, in a final kind of death blow, is like, there is no culprit. I just made that shit up to have a story. It's called fiction. Do what I wanna. Plot device. And Kang Chul breaks down, and the actor that plays Kang Chul, his face during that moment was so classic. Like, do you know what I've been through? My parents died in my arms. My brothers and sisters. I went to prison. I've been attacked. I've been stabbed, shot, framed. Everything. For nothing? For a plot device? Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, he's destroyed. And he's kind of like, I'm going to leave because otherwise I'm going to have to kill you. The father's like, you couldn't kill me if you wanted to because I created you and I know you better than anybody. I know you're not the kind of person who'd kill somebody. This is like the second or the third time the father has said this. Kang Chul, at that point, after hearing that his entire life was a lie and that his family was killed for no reason, yeah, that was the wrong time to try to play that game with him. He shoots the father dead in the heart because he's a sharpshooter. Of course he wouldn't miss. Shoots the father in the heart. At the same time, Yoon-ju had gotten a hold of the assistant because she was listening to the whole conversation. She'd been listening to that whole thing between Kang Chul and the artist. But she had gotten a hold of the assistant and told him to go over to the house to try to find the father because she knew some bad shit was happening. And the assistant's out in the grassy area, the lawn, when he hears the shot. And at first he thinks he's been shot, but no, it is Kang Chul walking away from the house after having shot the artist. So after that, Kang Chul writes a letter, and he writes a letter and leaves it at the hospital because he has plans to take his own life. Meanwhile, Yoon-ju goes to her father's house because she's heard everything that's happened through the phone and she knows her father has been shot. Gets to the house, her father is in critical condition. She almost goes into surgery with him, but at the last minute they tell her you have to leave because you're no good here. So her father's been shot. She's afraid he's gonna die, and everything is a mess. Everything is a mess. And even the assistant is like, Yoon-ju, you should not have saved him the first time you got dragged into the comic because now look what he's done. He possibly has killed your father. But months pass. Oh no, I almost forgot something. So the father is in surgery. The very next day, Yoon-ju gets a call from the web series host, like the company that hosts the web series. And they're like, we got this file last night. We haven't published it yet. I'm going to send it to you. Let me know what you think. They send her the file and it shows the storyline. And this is how we find out that Kang Chul, after shooting the father, decides to take his own life because at this point I'm sure he feels like his life is pointless. Everything that he's been fighting for, everything that he's been doing, every point that he had to keep on fighting, to keep going on, the whole reason for everything is a lie. There is no reason for anything. So he jumps off the Han Bridge, takes his life, and it shows it in the comic and it finally says in the corner, the end. Well, the entire nation is in an uproar. And the reason why is because at first the comic wasn't published. But because a comic book character shot the artist, they can't really explain all this. And the artist lives, but they can't really explain, why the bullet disappeared, why the gun disappeared. Because apparently when the comic book character dies, everything that was proof of their presence disappears, which makes me think that store where he bought all those comic books, they're about to have a rude awakening because that money is going to disappear soon. But yeah, everything that was a part of Kang Chul, that was a part of the comic, it's over, it's done, it's no longer a part of this world. So they go ahead and they publish it because they decide that since they can't explain that Kang Chul shot the artist, that they're going to say that this comic was the suicide note of the artist. This was a failed suicide, that this comic was his suicide note. This is why it all had to end like this. And of course people are outraged because for a while, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, the comic has been really weird. The storyline has been nowhere where they're used to it being. And then the last scene, it shows the artist being shot and the lead character drowning. So people are like, the fuck? Hell no. Not after 10 years of reading. Are you kidding me? Fuck this bullshit. Y'all need to rewrite this, which I totally get that. Because people are like that in real life all the time. People very unsatisfied with the ending of the Hunger Games. I thought the ending of the Hunger Games was good, but other people are like, no. Not after all the time I invested, hell no. Same way with, again, the aforementioned Harry Potter. None of us wanted Fred to die. Not a one. And a lot of us wouldn't have minded if Snape had survived, but that's not the way things work out. So what can you do? But anyway, months later, Yoonju and the assistant, they're still looking for a body. They're still wondering if maybe Kang Chul is out there, because they're not sure if he disappeared or if maybe his body's in the ocean. The father goes back and tells Yoonju, after I lived from all of this, I thought that maybe I would give Kang Chul another chance, because I really did do him dirty. But when I tried to erase the part of the scene that said the end, I couldn't do it. It wouldn't let me do it. And then I thought about the fact that, if he lives, there's a chance for you to continue to get drug into this comic. And I didn't want that for you. I couldn't stand if something happened to you in this comic. I don't want this to affect your life, because you're my daughter and you're your mother's child. And I couldn't have that. And so, Yoonju understands that, and she starts to get back to normal. Things start going back to the status quo. And somehow or another, she gets roped into a blind date. Well, she goes to the blind date and decides to, oh, excuse me for a minute, I gotta go to the powder room. Goes to the powder room, and all of a sudden she's drowning. She's drowning, and she looks over in this water that she's drowning in, and she sees Kang Chul, and she starts swimming towards him. But she can't save him. And somehow or another, she managed to get herself out of the water. How, I don't know. But in that moment, she realizes, I think that this isn't over. And so she asks for the blind date's cell phone, checks the cell phone, sees that the end that was on that last panel has changed to be continued. So she finds assistant, because her father is not around. He actually left to go to New Zealand with some buddies of his. She finds the assistant, and the assistant is working with one of my favorite people in the world, the lady from the magazine in She Was Pretty. I don't know her name, but she was hilarious and she was pretty, and she's pretty funny here. But anyway, the assistant was working on another project, because he lost his job after W finished when it wrapped up. But she grabs the assistant and says, you have to start drawing this comic again, because I went in the comic. He's alive. You need to help me rescue him. And of course, the assistant's like, why would I do this? Do you not remember all the problems we had? I'm not your father. This isn't my creation. I can't make him come alive the same way your father did. This isn't for me. But, Yoonju has to explain, yes, he hurt my father, and I hate that he did that, and I hate all the torture that my father went through. But at the same time, my father created him, and my father lived. He shouldn't die believing he's a murderer when he's not a murderer. And he deserves a chance to finish his storyline the way he wanted to finish it. And so somehow or another, they start drawing, or at least the assistant starts drawing a rescue boat to try to save Kang Chul from the water. But it's not working. But finally, something does work. And Yoonju appears back in the prison, because she's got to appear wherever she left off the last time. That's the rule, I guess, the rules of engagement for her. But she appears in the prison. The boat goes to try to rescue Kang Chul, but at least I think it's in the real world. We see somebody else hanging out at the Han Bridge. Is a man with a hood and a black trench coat. It is the culprit. And we see him attack somebody in like the last scene of the show, and then it cuts to blank, and we'll have a bunch of adventures after this. But I have a theory that a lot of people have, and it's that Yoonju, the reason why she can go in and out of the comic the same way her dad is, because she is the co-creator of W. Because there's a scene, it's a flashback of the father when him and the mother were having the argument, and it shows Yoonju as a young girl drawing a picture of a man holding a gun like this. And that might be Kang Chul, which would mean that she is also a creator. And if she's also a creator, then that means that she has the ability to bring him to life the same way that I guess her dad did, and maybe she'll be the key to destroying it. And maybe also, because she's a creator, maybe she will have the power to identify the culprit and make his world finally make sense. Because, I think that's the only way that this story really can end. Like, it either ends because the lead character has decided that this is the end, and he kills himself, or finally the major conflict of the entire series is wrapped up. And I think that it can be done. I mean, somehow the prosecutor's going to have to be involved. Maybe somebody from the Russian shooting team is going to be involved. I don't know how they're going to figure this out. But one thing is pretty obvious so far. The father is not the culprit, because the father's in New Zealand. He's not on the Han Bridge. But I just can't wait to find out more about the show. I cannot wait to see more. This show is so good, and it's one of those shows that really lends itself to examination. It's got a lot of rich texture to it, so you can just peel away pieces and examine them like just separately and get a lot out of every little bit of it. It's so good, and I'm so glad that you guys convinced me to watch this. I'm still going to be watching Uncontrollably Fond. That's not changing. In fact, I'll be watching episodes 9 and 10. 7 and 8, 9. I think 9 and 10. I don't know. I'm talking about W right now, so I can't really keep track of Uncontrollably Fond, but I will be watching whatever episode 9 and 10. I will be watching 9 and 10 tomorrow, so I will probably have my review done either tomorrow or Sunday for 9 and 10. So I'm still going along with my other series, but this one, I cannot recommend it enough. Tell all your friends to start watching it. I mean, pass it on to people who you think like cool shit, because this really is an amazing show. This is a show for people who like comic books. This is a show for people who like Inception. This is a show for people who like The Matrix. This is a show for people who like philosophy. This is a show for anybody who likes something that's fast paced, that's got a lot of action to it, but also has a lot of really cool logic play to it. This is just a really rich palette, and I feel like it's going to slow down a little bit, because it looked like from the previews there's going to be more like romance stuff being examined, which I personally could do without, but I understand they need a little bit of it because you do have a hunk playing the lead and you got to give him some kissy time. But I am so happy. Like, just, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So yeah. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you'll continue to watch this show with me. Leave your comments down below. I love hearing your feedback. Any questions that you have of me, about the show. I always answer my comments for Kdrama. I always answer my comments for Kdrama. So please leave me some love down below, if you will, and I will talk with you guys later. Bye.